So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the third CheckThat session today. So as previously announced a couple of times, we have three guest speakers. The first one is going to be David Corney from Full Fact, followed by Ruben Miguez from Neutral, and finally Moad Al-Taher from Fatta Bayano. Each of them is going to speak for about 15 minutes, and we are going to have some room for questions, but very short. So please, if you have any question, just drop it in the chat and we'll try to make it quick because we want to make some good room for the round table that we'll have at the end with our three guest speakers together with Brett Lavnakov. So that's it for my side. Please, David, your turn.
Thank you very much. Let's see if it's working. Right. Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Alberto and Preston and others for inviting me to talk today, and also thank you all the speakers this morning. I enjoyed the both sets of talks earlier. So today, yes, I'm representing Full Fact, the UK's independent fact-checking charity, and I'll talk about some of our work there, particularly focusing on claim matching, which I think is very closely tied to a lot of the CheckThat work. So a very brief introduction. Full Fact basically exists, it's a charity which exists to improve the state of public debate in the UK and more widely, to raise standards, to make sure people are being as honest and open as possible. And so, as I was saying at the outset, that I'm personally not a fact checker. I'm a machine learning and data scientist kind of person, but I work closely with the fact checkers there, and I've got some understanding of what they do. Really, the motivation of Full Fact is to address this question that bad information ruins lives. The online harms we are constantly addressing are things like people trying to undermine democracy with false information about who's eligible to vote or what a particular policy may be. Of course, this year, a lot of our work has been focused on the pandemic, where misinformation around what causes the coronavirus to spread or what treatments may be available, bad information there has literally cost many people their lives. Harm doesn't get any more serious than that. And so the goals really are quite important for fact checking these days. And there are several ways that Full Fact does this, addresses this problem. Two which I want to focus on, one of which is fact checking, is actually just looking at what is being said in public by politicians, by journalists, by columnists, anybody really, which is misleading or plain wrong. And we check those facts, we verify them, and we publish our fact checks. And then the second thing we do on top of that is to ask for corrections and clarifications or withdrawals. So again, if someone says something which we can strongly argue is wrong or misleading, we actually do directly ask, newspapers and journalists and politicians in particular to clarify on the record updates to what they previously said. And we had some success. One highlight a couple of years ago now, we actually got the then Prime Minister to acknowledge in the House of Commons in a speech that he previously made a mistake, and the Full Fact pointed out to him that he got it wrong, and he very kindly, acknowledged that and updated the public record. And at Full Fact, we're fortunate. Most fact checkers around the world, most fact checking organisations around the world, I think only have a handful of journalists working there, nothing else. Full Fact is slightly different. We have 8 full-time journalists doing full-time fact checking. We also have a small team doing technical work, which I'm part of, and we try to develop tools to help fact checkers and others do their work a bit more efficiently. And as part of that, we've asked them over the years, what exactly do you want? And it boils down really to these 3 things. These are what fact checkers from around the world have told us in the past. And yeah, this will be the focus really of what I'm talking about. So number one, they want to know is, what's the most important claim that we should be checking today? One reason this is so important is it takes a long time to do a thorough fact check. On average, it takes Full Fact staff around 1 day to check one fact. So you don't want to be checking the wrong thing. It turns out to be something trivial where you miss something really important. So it's very important that we do choose the most important things to check. But this is a complex decision. Yeah, they consider things like, what's the impact of the misinformation? What would the impact be of a correction to it? What was the context in which the claim was originally made? How much time would it take to do this check? If a check would take a week to verify, in that week we could have done 5 other fact checks. So is it really worth it? So it's a complex process. And obviously this is close to the checkworthiness task within CheckThat. One thing I've seen, not at CheckThat, but at some other similar organizations and papers and things, I've seen people try to work on checkworthiness by looking at what has been checked and not checked by fact checkers. So they build up a list of claims and say, here's 1,000 claims, of which 200 were checked by fact checkers. And the assumption is that if nobody checked it, it wasn't worth checking. I think that's a very dangerous kind of assumption to make. Often fact checkers don't check something because they're just too busy. They can't do everything, so they have to prioritize. And so we want to be careful about exactly how we define checkworthiness. We don't directly measure checkworthiness at full fact. As I said, it is a complex matter. So rather than trying to automate it, we've just created a tool which lets our fact checkers sort of filter out all the claims that we made in the last day or two. So they can see, they can basically filter claims out by who said the claim, by when it was said, what publication it was in, what topic it was on, what type of claim was it. And this way that they can quickly, for example, ignore all the predictions, because we can't really check a prediction. So we just drop all those ones out and look at numerical claims perhaps made by a leading politician, and helps them find something which then they decide, the fact checkers then decide themselves, is actually worth checking. So that's the first thing looking for. The second thing there is to know when someone says something that they've already checked. And this is what I'll come back to for the main part of my talk. So I won't say much more than that now. And this is clearly related to the sort of verified claim retrieval work within CheckThat. I'll come back to that. And thirdly, the thing they want is to check things as quickly as possible. As we all know, false news tends to spread very quickly. It tends to be very emotive and very clickable, whereas the truth can take a while to catch up. So being quick to check claims is important. We have looked at automated fact checking, automatic verification of facts at full fact, and it's hard. I've enormous admiration for anyone who can do this. I have some concerns about this, which perhaps we can discuss later on in the round table. But very briefly, I think that there is at least a risk that automated verification may bias systems towards checking things which are quite straightforward to check, like an explicit numerical claim, and therefore may miss things which are a bit more subtle, a bit more nuanced, and require greater sort of human levels of intelligence to check. So there's a risk that if you automate the process, you end up automating, as it were, the easiest half of the process, the easiest half of the claims to check. Perhaps miss some of the more important ones elsewhere. But like I said, we can discuss it later on, perhaps in the round table. And yeah, I think this list was just drawn up by colleagues, I think 2 or 3 years ago now, in conversation with different fact checkers. And yet these three goals really coincide very closely with the CheckThat tasks there. Which I think is a great credit to the organisers of CheckThat, that you are addressing many of the really important issues for fact checkers, in my experience. So I want to give an example of a verified claim or a fact check. This is one from Full Fact from last month. The claim was that flu is killing more people than coronavirus, and our conclusion was that this is not true. There's no evidence for this, and almost certainly more people are dying from coronavirus than flu. So to us, this fact check is published as a kind of structured document. There is the claim, the conclusion, it's the main body of the text, which is not shown here, but is another sort of 500 or 1,000 words, maybe with graphs and figures, things to back up the conclusion. And along with publishing these, we also try to monitor the data, to monitor the media. And so these are a couple of examples when this claim was being published. So The Sun is the UK's leading newspaper, a very popular tabloid. And they have this headline that flu is killing more people than coronavirus. At the same time, The Times, which is a very sort of serious broadsheet paper in the UK, have a very similar headline. Basically, they're both misinterpreting some official statistics. So the goal of claim matching really is to track the media, to monitor the media, and when headlines or stories or tweets or speeches mention these kind of claims that we've already verified, we want to get that match up there as quickly as possible. So one of the reasons for doing this is that if we can quickly push out a request for a clarification or correction, even when somebody's repeating a claim, theoretically, we can do this within minutes. If you've already done the fact checking, which may take a day or so, if someone then repeats the claim the next day, the claim we already know is false, we can reach out to them, by phone, by email, Twitter, whatever it is, straight away, and say, look, we've already checked this. Here is our fully argued, balanced, account of what's actually going on there. So please correct the record. And then so we can hopefully reduce the spread of misinformation in real time, as well as hopefully encouraging public figures to be more careful about what they say in the future. So it gets better value for money from the fact checks. Currently, we do this using quite an old-fashioned technology. For the last couple of years now, we've been just using a simple keyword Boolean query. And so every sentence we scrape from every newspaper, we check it against these fixed queries and see if there's a match, which is limited, but kind of works. It's better than nothing anyway. Yeah, but to this point, the media we monitor is basically UK newspapers, TV news subtitles, some social media. So we collect basically tweets and Facebook pages which are about UK politics and news, but not the rest of Twitter. It's just too big for us. I also look at Hansard, which is the official UK parliamentary publication. So we monitor all these accounts and automatically, and anytime a sentence comes up which matches a claim we've already found using this keyword searching, we'll flag that up to our colleagues, who then decide whether to take actions or not. And so it's important to remember that this is not just topic detection. We don't just want to find every mention of coronavirus, because that'd be millions of them. That's no good. We want a very, very narrow focus on specific matching. I keep trying to come up with a good definition of what exactly we mean by claim matching. This is a bit wordy, but the best I come up with so far anyway is saying, does knowing the truth of the verified claim, either published fact check, does knowing whether that is true or not, tell you whether this new claim which is found is true or not. So it's a very, very tight match. So some numbers where we are now, so it varies day to day, but we get roughly 100,000 sentences every day from UK sources, like I just listed. And full facts published now, I think something in the order of 3,000 fact checks. But the older a fact check is, the less likely it is to be repeated, and less interesting it is when it is repeated. Typically, news cycle is quite short. So let's suppose on any given day, we're really interested in the 100 most recent fact checks, or maybe 50 recent ones and 50 sort of long-term ones. But 100 is a good round number. So now if we want to compare whether any given sentence from the media matches any fact check we've already published, any verified claim, we have basically 10 million pairs of media sentences and verified claims to compare, which is quite a large number, although not enormous. I'm very uncertain about this figure. No one really knows, but it seems that sometimes literally there are no repeats of any previous fact checks that we published. Nobody says anything that we've already checked recently. This is based partly on our current keyword Boolean query searches, but also on the experience of colleagues who just spend all day looking for these matches, and often find none. On a good day, as it were, perhaps you find 10. So we're looking for a very small number of cases. So yeah, basically 1 in 10,000 sentences on a typical day may match a claim. But given we're looking at 100 different fact checks, it's basically 1 in a million of these pairs of sentences and fact checks actually are matches. So 1 in a million pairs of unverified claims to verified claims is actually a match. So yeah, it's very, very unbalanced data set. I think, excuse me 1 second. I think it's 2 interesting ways to look at this, this task. One of them is that sort of ranking method, which is obviously what the CheckThat task 2 is, to say what's the most relevant verified claim that's most similar to this new sentence we've got, or the new tweet in the CheckThat case. And I noticed a few people in the talks earlier, including I guess Mustafa from Buster AI, was saying that actually what they did is build a classification tool and then use the class labels, the class prediction probabilities to then build the ranking. But I think for us at Full Fact, I'm more interested in directly in the classification. So we're saying, is any verified claim, is any published fact check essentially equivalent to or very similar to the sentence we're just getting from the media? And the reason for doing classification rather than verification, rather than ranking, is just that most of the time, almost every time, even the most similar claim is still not actually a match. And we really only want to find those positive matches. we are working on the tools to do this. I don't have any sort of F1 scores or concrete results to give you, unfortunately. But over the summer, we've been experimenting with some of the tools that, again, other people were talking about in their talks earlier. So using sentence-BERT for doing cosine similarity between a claim and a sentence. I had a very useful conversation with Preslav and Giovanni a month ago now about their recent co-authored paper on that is a known lie. And Preslav recommended using BM25 as another way of kind of looking at information retrieval as a kind of different approach to this. And also, we already had an entity extraction tool, and taking account how many named entities appear in both the claim and in the sentence from the media. But what we really found is that none of these methods work sufficiently well to be useful by themselves. So we started recently basically building a classifier which takes all of these as inputs and predicts the probability that a sentence claim pair is actually a match. Evaluation of this is quite hard because the data set is so biased, and you'll be looking for that one match a day or 10 matches a day. We do have a small test set we gathered internally, and results are sort of promising, enough to be useful, I hope. And so we decided we're in a fortunate position, unlike some people, that we do actually have users available. In fact, on this project, we're collaborating with fact checkers across Africa Check, which covers 4 countries across Southern Africa, also Czechia and Argentina, as well as full fact. And so we're actually literally this week deploying these tools in a very early release kind of way to say, here's a current state of claim matching. Is this useful? How could this be better? And as a rough idea, I said I wasn't going to give concrete results, but my current best estimate of the precision of this tool is it's around 4%. I have no idea what the recall is. And for most information retrieval NLP kind of tasks, 4% precision and unknown recall is pretty poor. But the way I see it, the way I'm hoping it could be useful is that suppose we generated 100 predicted matches in an overnight email. So in the morning, someone sits down and reads through 100 matches. I'll take half an hour just to say, are any of these correct? And if one of those is correct, if just one is correct, that's one piece of action that a fact checker can take and reach out to a journalist or a politician and say, you said this thing which we already know is false, please can you stop saying it? And that possibility of just increasing the amount of interactions, amount of actions we can take as fact checkers globally, I think it's very exciting, even if it is a far from perfect tool. But we are, like I said, rolling this out now, hoping to get user feedback and then to iterate on that. So I think I'll leave it there, really. Happy to take questions now or by email later on. I'm very happy to be touched by email, and of course, at the round table. So just to say, really, that generating fact checks is kind of slow and expensive, so we want to reuse them as much as possible. And we think that by matching claims in this way, we can hopefully actually reduce the spread of harmful misinformation in real time. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you very much for a nice talk. There are indeed a couple of questions, actually 3 questions. I'll just go quickly. Tamer El Sayed is asking, are you focused more on political claims or claims in general?
It's a good question. I think last year, for example, mostly political claims, but really since the pandemic struck, I think the fact checkers have a goal of doing one non-COVID related fact check per week each, I think. So we're currently very much focused on health and medicine. But besides that, it's mostly politics, yes. Okay,
nice. Question number 2 from Dietrich Trudman. Are you using previously fact-checked claims in future decisions about which claims to check?
Not explicitly, no. So our fact checkers are very experienced and trained fact checkers, and they decide by looking at what's in the day's papers and what happened overnight, they decide what's worth checking. They know, they have their own memories and internal knowledge of what has been checked, and so that will guide their decisions. But we don't simply reproduce fixed patterns of what is checked previously to determine what to check next. No.
Okay, thanks. Last question, Gautam Shahi. How do you verify that a claim is already fact-checked? I still see many duplicated fact-checked articles.
So within full fact, I don't think we check the same thing twice very often, unless something substantially has changed. I think, again, the answer there is just it's a small team and they discuss their work internally the whole time, every day. And so everyone knows what has been published recently. If a different organization has published a fact check about something that we might check, we would probably defer to them if that was a good enough check, if they cover things to a high enough standard. It's worth saying that we only really look at UK claims. So I think things may be different in some countries where there are multiple fact checkers all covering the same ground. I think in the UK there are very few independent fact checkers out there, so there's less chance that's kind of duplicated fact checking.
Okay, thank you very much. There are some more questions, but let's wait for the round table. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.